Okay, we're back to talk about Murderbot on Apple TV Plus, episode 8, titled Foreign Object. This episode written by Chris White and Paul White and directed by Aurora Guerrero. Murderbot and the team head back to the habitat to take care of an injured Garathan. While there, they find footage of advanced sec units and people from a group called Gray Chris, another mining team. The team wants to meet with Dr. Mintz and her team to discuss survival and dealing with the situation in a non-violent way. The team deduces Grey Chris must be there to extract alien remnants from that planet illegally. While Larhadway had performed surgery on Garathan, Murderbot plugs into him to manage his pain. Garathan is then able to see flashbacks from a time when Murderbot killed 57 people in the past. Murderbot tries to tell them he's not sure how much of that information they can trust, and he wants the team to trust him. It goes off on its own before returning, saying it has a plan for how the team can deal with Grey Chris. Some answers here, who these
Yeah.
agitators are, who this third party is, what they might be after, but perhaps just a lot of exposition setting up for whatever this plan is that Murderbot has. So another tight episode in terms of time, but did give us some answers we've been looking for.
Yeah, a little bit, right? I mean, kind of some stuff that we saw coming. We still don't really know what's going on with these
Yeah.
Gray Chris people. At least we've got a name for them. I don't believe we got a name for the woman who appears to be their leader,
No.
played by Amanda Brugel. I got the actress's name, but not the
Yeah.
character. Um, so we'll see. I mean, presumably they are going to go and meet up, and then here in the home stretch of the season,
hmm
we're finally going to find out what's really going on. Looking forward to that. Definitely enjoyed the episode. Definitely some great moments of humor here.
Yes.
Probably the one I
Yes.
enjoyed the most was when Murderbot's going to hook up to Garathan and Mensa asks if he got this from Sanctuary Moon. And
Yeah.
he said, no, no. And then in his inner monologue, he mentions the other TV show he got it from.
Yes. Yes.
That was,
They're all based on realistic cases.
yeah. Um, so good. Yeah. I mean, not a ton moves things forward. I do wonder, as you mentioned in your little summary, Garathan, finds out that Murderbot killed 57 people, precisely 57 somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this seems to relate to that memory that Murderbot's had trouble accessing itself. Did this happen before Murderbot was refurbished? That's what I've always kind of guessed. Um, but I don't know. Also, at this point, I guess part of me finds myself wondering how important this is going to be, right? Like in terms of the
Yeah.
details of what happened. Do you think that's going to be important, or is the significance more in terms of how narratively it serves a purpose because Garathan finds out, and that again kind of stirs up tension between the characters here.
I think this, in my mind, this is going to be sort of the crux of what happens over the next couple of episodes because there clearly has to be some sort of arrangement where they meet with this other group. Yet I'm sure that Dr. Mintz and her team are hesitant to do that, and they would feel like the only way that they could go to such a meeting is if they have protection. Well, do they have protection if they trust Murderbot or not? So I think the decision of what do we think, they already had these questions and these sort of factions that were forming of do we trust it or not? And now we've got the sense of if it's even, whether it's true or not, or whether it was before refurbishment or not, there's something in this past that shows that you killed these dozens of people. Whether they choose to go along with Murderbot's plan, I think is the big decision remaining in this last two episodes.
Yeah, that was another bit I liked in that exchange where that's not why I call myself Murderbot.
That's right.
Um, do we know why it calls itself Murderbot? I mean, I feel like it's just because it sounds cool.
I seem to recall that from the first or second episode that yeah, it
Yeah,
just it just chose what it thought was a great cool name.
yeah, and it's basically how it played there in the premiere. But okay, so as you say, yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but at the same time, thinking it through, they don't have much of a choice.
They really don't.
Like, what else are you going to do other than go rendezvous with Gray Chris? They don't have a way to get off the planet. They don't have a way to signal the
Yeah.
company. Um, they don't really have any other option. I
And they're
guess.
surely
So
not going to go meet with that group knowing that they have three or four advanced sec units without any sort of security beside them. So I mean, I think narratively they have to go. I mean, obviously we're not going to see Murderbot just leave leave the show at this point, but narratively I think they have to start believing in his plan and going with it onto the meeting.
yeah, I think so. Any thoughts on what its plan is, however, right? Because
Ooh,
Murderbot is kind of wandering around after the confrontation, trying to distract itself with TV shows, and it's not working because it's so caught up
yeah,
in this news story that it's a part of with the. I appreciated that Murderbot called them hippies because I feel like freer to call them hippies now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but uh, but there seems to be some thought in that internal monologue about the possibility of betraying them for its own survival.
Right, right.
Um, but maybe it's ambiguous. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did sort of think that was ambiguous. That it wants to go off on its own, live its own life, watch its own shows, not have to worry about that anymore. But yet, then why return, saying it has a plan? But I I'm sure that plan is somewhat self-serving. Maybe that's sort of the I don't know the moral hook of the next couple episodes of does this Murderbot with some sense of free will going to choose to do something that serves its own interest or serve the interest of those that it repeated in this episode does not have to protect anymore because it no longer has a governor module.
Right, but it also has the same problem we were talking about before. Doesn't have a way off the planet.
Right.
Cares about its own survival.
Yep.
Doesn't really have any choice except for Dracos, right? Like
Right.
so. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Murderbot is kind of scheming along the lines of going to this meeting primarily concerned about its own survival and playing with the idea of like sacrificing the Preservation Alliance folks for its own survival, and then doesn't do that, right?
Yeah.
Like ultimately, in the last instance, finds they can't do that. God damn it! I kind of care about these hippies or something like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
I
surprised if that's where we're going.
I think that is an extremely likely scenario of what's about to happen here.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what sort of we're at. I mean, we've speculated about the alien tech or whatever. It was briefly
Right.
mentioned before. It's briefly mentioned again. We still don't really know what we're talking about here.
Oh.
I'm not even sure. I somehow made the inference that we're talking about like ancient aliens that are no longer around, like
Yeah.
like the engineers from Prometheus or something.
That's
But
exactly
at
what
the
I was
same
going
time,
to
I feel
say.
like did I make that up? Because I don't think they even really said that.
I don't
So
think they've said anything like that. Yeah, this is yeah, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, there were aliens that had some sort of technology or biomechanical components that we're interested in. And so we're going to go dig those up or find them. And it's a race to who can get it and bring it back to to their planet, to their highest bidder, to their corporation, whatever it is that they're going for.
yeah, but it's forbidden, so that
Yes.
that
Yeah.
that ties into it. And so these aliens, whoever they are or were, don't they don't seem to be around actively. So they left whatever artifacts, and those are they're built, and you're not allowed to take them and sell them. And so I'm curious to see where that goes, because there's an implication that there's something almost magical, right? I mean, because we've seen how it distorts the map and draws the sandworm creatures in, but then they die. I
Yeah.
think we're talking about the same thing there. So then,
Yeah.
um, presumably that is what Grey Chris wants. I don't know what else it could be. And yeah, maybe it's just all been a big misunderstanding,
Yeah, these are just another group of people and sec units out for their own survival, and they're feeling like they have to do what they need to survive. And I don't know that maybe I just have not processed it enough, but the idea that Gray Chris really only wants to meet this group because Ray Chris has no concept of where the alien remnants are. Like I guess they've been searching and not been able to locate them. And why is in their own capability have they not been able to discover what Mensa's team has been able to discover? So, but I guess that's the impetus for these two groups meeting up.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's more or less what we're told. You are right, though, that that does seem odd
Yeah.
because it seems like our Preservation Alliance folks found that spot pretty easily. All they did was say, what's this weird blip on the map? Let's
Yeah.
go see."
Yes.
So I don't know if there's any more to it, if we'll get any more explanation, if we'll just have to accept that. But it does seem like, yeah, Grey Chris wants the information that Prezox has, and they at least think or fear with some legitimacy that once they give that information, that Grey Chris will just simply kill them. There's some legitimacy to that because we are talking about a group here that just like massacred all the other people at the Delphi place. Um, so we'll see. You want to talk about the Sanctuary Moon bit at the beginning a little bit?
Yeah, so we just got sort of a cold open of sorts of a scene from Sanctuary Moon and just sort of curious how this does or might imitate what's about to happen, whereby I guess the scene from Sanctuary Moon, they have a nav bot, I think it's called, that has been some sort of reprogrammed or repurposed, and everyone warns the captain not to trust it, not to put it in charge of where they're going. He doesn't listen. The nav bot turns on them, sends them into something that will keep them stranded for eternity, and then basically I think kills the not basically does kill the captain. So it's sort of a okay, is that the sort of sense of what we're doing? Is that Murderbot getting an idea of what could happen? Just sort of what's the point of showing us this? We've seen a lot of clips from Sanctuary Moon, but this one seemed to look pretty prescient in terms of what's about to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's at least some kind of parallel or resonance of questioned, if that makes sense. It is interesting how in the Sanctuary Moon episode, so apparently the Navbot had already killed the captain, right? But then they reprogrammed her or it, whatever that one's pronouns are.
Yeah.
Um, and Clark Gregg's character is insisting, "No, it's fine now, guys.
Yeah,
It's
everything's good.
we reprogrammed it. Everything's fine." And he's very wrong, right? So there's definitely that parallel that we know that Murderbot's been refurbished and all of that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're presuming that when Murderbot killed those 57 miners, that was before and maybe led to that refurbishing, whatever's involved in that exactly, right? So I think it definitely at least resonates with the question of whether there's this possibility that Murderbot is going to um, decide to kill everyone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think
Yeah.
it is. So I don't know if it's a precise
I
goal.
don't get the sense that yeah, it's going to pull this kind of move that the Navbot did, and that it will turn on this crew that we've come to know. That's not the impression I get of what's going to happen in the last two episodes.
Yeah, and we don't get to see exactly how that ends up in Sanctuary Moon, and Murderbot gets interrupted in his viewing experience, and
Right.
then later it doesn't go back to that episode. It's trying to distract itself with old favorites or what have you. I wonder if we'll return at all to that because it definitely it's left right on the cusp of the idea of this Navbot literally killing the entire
Yeah.
crew. And then that would have to be like the end of the Sanctuary Moon show. So um, probably that wouldn't be what would happen in that
I
show.
guess not. Yeah.
Like keep it going. So it's maybe the first time that I found myself really feeling, kind of invested in the plot of Sanctuary Moon.
Right.
All the previous times are just like, I don't care, whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but now it's apparently the captain had this romance with the Navbot, and then something went
Right.
wrong, and the Navbot killed him, and now they reprogrammed the Navbot. I'm getting into this. Um, Yeah, so another good episode. We got two more left in the
Yeah.
season. Anything more you want to say about this one? Oh, I had a
Um,
couple of things, I guess.
oh yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um,
go ahead. Yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about this. I appreciated the way that Rothy quickly embraces the name Murderbot once he learns that Murderbot calls itself Murderbot.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though the name is Murderbot, he's like, well, I'm trying to be respectful.
Rafi wants people to both give him all the guns so he can go be, commando or whomever on the mission, and then also be respectful to Murderbot because that's it's chosen name. Yeah, you have to be respectful for
Right. And when Matthew learns that Murderbot's pronouns are it's, he's gonna
it.
make a real effort to use the
That's
right
right.
pronouns.
That's right.
So I don't know. I make fun of these people a little bit, this whole group and their vibe, but I do appreciate it, and it does serve the story really well. I mean, so the other thing I had was apparently they're going to end their throuple because it's not working out because Riley's falling in love with Pink Lee, and so it's not an equal tripartite
Right,
thing.
right.
But all of these ways, I guess, that they characterize the Preservation Alliance people,
Yeah.
um, I appreciate, and I think it works really well. So I guess I'm just trying to make sure to give that a little bit of attention because it's easy to kind of focus on the plot of things and
Yeah,
not
and,
even
and it would
mention
have
this
been
stuff.
very easy to give Mensa and Garathan, fully developed stories and backgrounds and what they're things they're dealing with, and just let the other people be in the just sort of they're be glorified extras, but they do have a sense of trying to get everybody involved in what's happening here.
Yeah, for sure. We also get the, tie-in giving a more warrant to that flashback scene from last week when Garathan refuses the painkillers
Right,
because he'd
right.
previously been addicted to drugs by the corporation and all of that. I think that's how that ties together. Whether he had the nefarious plan to use this connection to get into Murderbot's mind,
I
probably, probably,
think so. Yeah.
um, or just takes advantage of it. So, um, yeah, again, another good episode. We've got two more left. I think that about does it. Anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, it did certainly say or show to me that there's a couple of interesting places it can go over the last two episodes. I love as we'll talk about another other shows down the road when you sort of give us this. Okay, there's a question. I want to answer that question leading into the next episode. So certainly be very interested to find out what happens in 9 and 10.
Same. All right, so we'll leave it there. Again, our recording plan here is we're going to proceed to record something on the bear that you can keep an eye out for. But we're going to wrap this one up and put it out here. So thanks always for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow TV Obsessive on social media if you search for TV Obsessive. And be sure to check out tvobsessive.com for written articles. I've been writing on Murderbot week to week. Again, Ryan is writing on The Bear, and more will be coming out on that down the line. Also, I'm planning to write something on Squid Game. You keep an eye out for that. And there's all sorts of other stuff on there about various TV shows, past and present. So I'd encourage you to check out tvobsessive.com. And yeah, we'll close this one out, and then we'll be back with you with a supplementary podcast on the bear, if that's something you might be interested in.
Yes, looking forward to that. Looking forward to episode 9 next week.
All right.